Meeting. Terry, you want to kick things off?
Sure. This meeting is being conducted virtually and in person, so I will do a roll call of the trustees to confirm attendance. Ms. Durazo?
Here.
Ms. Gray? Yes. Mr. Rue? Mr. Sanchez, and Mr. Oakham, and Mr. Green are not joining us. Mr. Robbins? He's here.
He's there.
Mr. Moore?
Here.
Mr. Kehoe? Mr. Harris?
Here.
Acting Chair Knox?
I am here, thank you.
Staff participating in the meeting include CEO Santos Kryman, Deputy CEO Louis Lugo, AEOs JJ Popowich and Laura Guglielmo, Chief Counsel Stephen Rice. Other staff and managers participating include Kathy Delano, Chat Arande, Kelso Templo, Hernan Barrientos, Carrie Wilson, Eugenia Durr, Deanna Long, and Iveta Brecco. Trustees, please use the raise your hand Zoom option to be placed in queue. At this time, we ask all meeting participants to mute your mics until you are ready to speak, and we may now proceed with the agenda.
Thank you very much. We do not have a quorum, so we will be skipping the approval of the minutes and go straight to the LACERA operations briefing. Mr. Lugo?
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Trustee Knox, I should say, committee members. I don't have much in terms of the operations briefing. It's available to the committee members. What I will say is, for the new members, and welcome back, Mr. Moore and Trustee Durazo, the Operations Oversight Committee is really the forum where we really get into some of the details operationally and provide some presentation in terms of our accomplishments. And two of the presentations today will highlight some of those, one of which will be our case management system, which I'm looking forward for this committee to hear that presentation, as well as our Information Security 100-day plan. But otherwise, stand for any questions as it relates to the operations briefing.
I see no questions from the group, so thank you very much, Mr. Lugo. Moving on to the next item, the case management solution implementation update and progress thereof.
You just say the next slide.
Good afternoon. We have some new folks. Do you want to introduce the team?
Yes, good afternoon, trustees. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for allowing us to present in front of you. So today, our main focus is kind of, by the way, I'm Celso Templo, IT Manager for Systems PMO. Okay, our focus today is to kind of report on the strides that we made in implementing our case management system. Recently, we implemented our disability litigation and disability retirement services module. We went live with it on September 22nd of 2023. Today, we'll be discussing some of the current status of that two modules. Also, we'll be talking about what are some of the lessons learned, and also we'll be discussing on the enhancement that went into that module, discussing on the importance of it, and also what are the implications with our overall organization. Okay, so with that, next slide, please. Okay. Yes, there you go. Thank you. Well, now we have our DRS. So with that, for this presentation, we'll be going over some of the release and enhancement that we've had. First will be the disability retirement. Hernan Barrientos and Carrie Wilson, our DRS special supervisor, will be talking about the DRS module. Then Eugenia Dare, Senior Staff Counsel, Diana Luong, Senior Legal Secretary, will be discussing about the DLO module. Then Iveta Brecco, our Project Manager for Systems PMO, will go over some of the future state of this application. She's going to go over some of the enhancements that'll be provided, and also what are the future releases that will be provided to our SOL, our case management system. So with that, I'll hand it over to Hernan to start things off. Hernan,
And
please take
again,
away.
just because we have some new trustees, it might be helpful to limit the acronyms and maybe say out some of the things, DROL and all that stuff.
Very well. So DLO, for all of you, is Disability Litigation Office. PMO is Project Management Office, which I'm the head of it. And then DRS is Disability Retirement Service. Okay? So with that, I'll hand it over to Hernan. Hernan, please take it away.
Yes, thank you, Kelso. And good afternoon, all trustees. There we go. Good afternoon, all trustees. As Kelso just mentioned right now, my name is Hernan Barrientos. I am a Senior Disability Retirement Specialist Supervisor. And I am one of the SMEs involved with this project regarding the case management system, of which I'm providing an update today. Internally, we call the case management system SOL, and prior to SOL, we did a lot of things manually. Staff kept track of their work via emails, via to-do, and we were paper-based, even Post-it notes, notepads, various ways to keep track of our work, and we had no central mechanism to keep track of our work. Next slide. So now with SOL, we have a centralized system that provides all disability retirement services staff the quick glance to be able to see where the case is and the information about the case and what needs to be done on the case. So here you can see at the top we have a little progress bar that shows where the case lies, where it is right now, and the middle portion shows a lot of the information regarding the applicant and the applicant's disability retirement application. And on the right, we have a to-do bar or section that notes that what the current task that it needs to be done is pending. So as soon as somebody completes that task, it will go ahead and go forward that task to the next person who has whatever work they need to do on that application. So the workflow and tracking, next slide, really brings a lot of functionality, particularly to our application intake unit. Our intake unit is involved with intaking a lot of the disability retirement applications and making sure that the applicant has submitted all the necessary documents for the application, and they also vet out any missing information and even missing documents altogether. And so whenever a document is needed, next slide, and something needs to be addressed with the member, our intake unit can go ahead and know in the system what additional information is needed from the member. And based on what they need to obtain from the member, letters can be automatically generated, and so that we can go ahead and send these out to the member along with a phone call to advise the member of what additional steps are needed in order for them to submit the information to us and or additional documents so that they can go ahead and have their application for disability retirement submitted and all good to go and in good order. Next slide. And so once everything is all said and done and everything is in order and everything has been received, you can see on the bar, everything is in nice and green, and the member is ready to undergo our disability retirement process. And so once the admin staff who's reviewing this completes it, they'll go ahead and hit complete, and SOL will go ahead and generate a letter to the member and to their attorney if they have chosen to seek representation. Next slide. Another area where this has brought considerable improvement is an area I've also been involved in, and that's the board agenda process. So internally in disability retirement, there was a lot of work prior to SOL done from the division secretary and even supervisors like myself and my colleagues and admin staff to make sure that the board packets that you receive every month are delivered to you promptly and to the division, to the board secretary. So that required a lot of coordination, a lot of emails amongst various staff, and it was a month-to-month effort of multiple people. Next slide. With SOL, we now have the capability to get rid of a lot of the minutia of this process and being able to introduce some level of automation instead of, leaving it to admin staff. So it frees up a lot of the supervisors and admin staff to just seek the benefit of just having this process automated. So that, next slide. So that now currently our process, rather than being involving and tedious and a lot of back and forth communication and email, all of this can be done, and we can ensure that the board's cases are provided to the board secretary in a single push of a button. And so that concludes my portion, and I will hand it off to Ms. Carrie Wilson to cover the appeals portion.
Thank you, Hernan. Good afternoon, trustees. As you heard, my name is Carrie Wilson. I'm another supervisor in Disability Retirement Services. In addition to processing disability retirement applications, DRS, Disability Retirement Services, serves as the court of the board, and we are responsible for the administration and maintenance of all records pertaining to all disability retirement appeals. Before SOL existed, we relied upon 3 different databases to store information: Workspace, Disability Tracker, and Microsoft SharePoint. Now with SOL, we solely rely on one database for information. Next slide, please. Once the Board of Retirement makes a decision on a disability retirement application, that process is complete, as is indicated by that fully green ribbon all the way across the top of the slide. Once that process is complete, the Start Appeal functionality of SOL becomes available should a member disagree with the board's decision and want to file an appeal. Once DRS receives notification that the applicant wants to file an appeal, what we do now, we click the Start Appeal button and 2 specific things happen. The first thing is the disability retirement application case is marked with the appeal in progress alert. So anyone in the future that opens the disability retirement application case can see that's done and an appeal is in progress. The second thing that happens is a separate appeal case, separate from the disability retirement application, is automatically created. Next slide, please. When this appeal case is created in SOL, instantaneously, all of the case information pertaining to the application process is immediately transferred over to the appeal case. So no redundancy in typing information that already exists within SOL. Another feature that is good about it creating the file for us is it creates the file folder structure. As you'll see, the group on the bottom left, the blue folders, appeal correspondence, appeal packet, etc. Those are the individual subfolders that we need within each appeal case so that as we accrue appeal documents, we have a place to store them within SOL. Next slide. Now, before an appeal can officially begin, the Board of Retirement must provide consent for us to refer the appeal to a referee for an administrative hearing. In order to do that, we must place the item on the agenda. Previously, before SOL, placing an item on the agenda required multiple staff sending emails back and forth, Word documents, et cetera, before one item could get placed on the agenda. Now with SOL, we've eliminated that. We have the Place on Agenda button. Once we're ready to do that, we click the Place on Agenda button and we get another drop-down selection that lists all the future and upcoming board dates that are available for us to choose from. Once we select the date we want the item placed on, we confirm it, and just like that, we're done with that. It's on the agenda. Once it goes to the agenda and the board provides the consent for us to refer to the administrative hearing, then DRS is responsible for assigning the referee. We do that now with a click of the button at the top of the screen. When we click the Assign Referee button, it automatically assigns the appeal case to the next referee available in rotation. The second part of what DRS is responsible for doing is for preparing all the records that disability retirement services gathered and obtained in the application process. We have to gather all those records and send them to all the parties in the appeal case. One of the parties is disability litigation. No more photocopying records, no more emailing records. This can all be done through SOL now. So there's a mechanism that allows us to use the tag feature and check mark all the records that were obtained in the application process, and we can simply send them to disability litigation once we click the Sync Docs to DLO button in the orange button in the upper right-hand corner. Once we do that, the referral to disability litigation is received on their side. They see a new appeal is received, and they have all the necessary information to begin their review process. Next slide. And this is of interest to point out. This is very critical. The event dates feature. This is something that we did not have before. The clerk of the board is responsible for keeping track of certain triggering event dates throughout the life of the appeal. Previously, we did not have any electronic method for keeping track of these dates, so we were doing it manually. So now SOL has been designed to recognize and capture these certain triggering events that we need and maintain these dates for us in this database. This is not only helpful for the appeals process, but should the appeal go to the next level of litigation, which is the writ process, legal, AKA Frank Boyd, will need these dates as well. This is something that he and his team will readily be able to access. And with that being said, the appeal has been referred to disability litigation, so I will turn it over to Eugenia Durr.
Thank you, Carrie. Good afternoon, trustees. On behalf of Disability Litigation, Diana Long and I will give a brief overview and highlight how SOL has improved our lives from an attorney and legal secretary standpoint. So prior to SOL, what we had were these volumes and volumes of these lovely green folders that housed our entire case paper, lots of paper. And we had Windows Explorer and SharePoint where we would store our briefs and letters and that sorts of things. And we had sheets of paper that look like this, which is a to-do list that our secretaries would generate for us weekly, letting us know what upcoming deadlines were and what events were coming up. And that's what we had. So now, after SOL, we actually have a centralized digital location of where we keep everything. And the only thing I have to bring home is my laptop and not volumes and volumes of these files in my Office Depot gigantic rolling crate. So the first thing I want to show you is the dashboard. So every attorney, when we log on, the first thing we're going to see is this dashboard. And you'll see at the top, all of my cases will be listed on that dashboard. And underneath that are my notifications. So if somebody like Carrie puts a digital document into an inbox of my file, I will get a notification, hey, you got something waiting for you on this case, which is really great. Or if a task has been completed, I will get a notification that a task has been completed. And at the bottom right, I have a box called upcoming events. So that's where I'll be notified of upcoming hearings, oral arguments, whatever. But what I have found most helpful is the top right, my to-do list right there. That is going to list with deadlines all of my upcoming to-dos on a particular case. Now, these to-dos can be automatically generated by SOL as part of the workflow process, or it can be added ad hoc, which is particularly helpful if I have, I don't know, I need a reminder to look at a case for some specific reason. But what's even better about this to-do, which we requested, was that we wanted to be able to add ad hoc to-dos that have nothing related, or that are not related to a case. That way, if I'm working on an office project that I need to work on, I can also add my to-dos for that project onto this list, so I don't have to keep multiple lists everywhere. This is my one-stop shop to figure out what I have to do for the day. Next slide, please. So once I click into my digital case, the first thing that pops up is this case info sheet. And you'll see at the very top, there's a header that has basic information such as employee number, the referee assigned, whether there's an applicant's attorney, their last job, statutory deadlines. The reason why we have this there, it's always there, no matter what tab you click on, is because those are the types of information that we're rummaging through our files searching for when I'm on the phone, when someone's asking me a question such as a department and I don't have that information at my fingertips. The other thing on this case info sheet is basic case information that I need to know that happened at the application level, such as who's the panel physician, what did the board decide? Again, things that I may need at my fingertips if I happen to be on the phone discussing a case with either applicant's attorney or the department. Before, what we would have to do is create our own forms that we would put as a file top sheet in order to have that information. Or I'd be just searching through it, which takes time. The other thing that we have on the right, just like DRS, is the to-do bar. And again, those to-dos are either automatically generated or we can do them ad hoc. But in this to-do list, it is specific to the case. But one of the nice things is if my secretary has a letter she wants me to review and approve before she sends it out, she can create an ad hoc to-do for me, and it will pop up and it will attach the electronic file to that to-do so that I can just click on it, look at it, tell her I approve it, hit complete, and she gets notification that it's done. So SOL has really streamlined our work process between ourselves. It has centralized all of our information in one place. We don't have to lug paper files home anymore, and everything is tracked, and I can't lose it, I don't think. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Diana to discuss some features that have been really helpful on behalf of the secretaries.
Good afternoon, trustees. My name is Diana Luong, and I was so happy to be able to work on the SOL case management system for disability litigation. And today I'm even more excited to talk about a couple of the features that have already helped us in our everyday tasks. The first thing I want to talk about are our templates. Previous to SOL, we would go to our library of templates, pick the one that we wanted, and then manually change the case-specific information, whether by typing or copying and pasting. Now with SOL, these same templates are in the system. We just go to the case and click on the template that we'd like, and SOL will populate it for us. So on your screen, for this example, SOL populated the recipient name and address, the case name, and because this letter is confirming the scheduling of a conference, we had SOL also fill in the date and time of the conference for us. As you can imagine, this is just so much easier, a lot faster. No more copying and pasting, no more hunting for information, and a lot less room for error. Next slide, please. The next thing I want to talk about is the distribute utility. This helps us create the declaration of service, also known as the proof of service, that's found at the end of legal documents. Previous to SOL, again, we would just copy and paste. With SOL, when we're ready to send out a document, this window opens. SOL already lists the participants that are associated with the case here for us, and we just need to check off the method in which they're receiving the document. The same recipient can receive it multiple ways. So for example, the applicant can receive it by both email and US mail, or different recipients could also receive it different ways. For this example, we're going to keep it simple. The applicant and the referee are going to both receive it by US mail. Next slide, please. SOL will then generate this declaration of service for us. You'll see that it shows the correct language for US mail there, and then it lists the two recipients below. SOL will then attach this to the main document. In this case, it's respondent's closing brief. So it's a completely seamless process. Next slide, please. The last thing I want to talk about is probably one of my most favorite features of SOL because it tackles a very time-consuming and manual process for us, and that's creating our pre-hearing statements. Our pre-hearing statements are a compilation of our exhibits and also a listing of those exhibits. Prior to SOL, the attorney would sit down with the stacks of files that Eugenia showed you, go through all the records, and then manually tag the record with a Post-it that they would like included as an exhibit. I would then get the files, look for the Post-its, and of course they tagged the one on the very bottom, so I have to take everything apart, copy that record, and then put everything back together again because we're still referring to these files. Once I had my copies, I would put them in order and then sit down and actually type out the listing. With SOL, all of those steps are electronic. On your screen, you'll see that the Documents tab is selected, the medical record folder is open, and each of these PDF files is an individual medical record. The attorney will go through the records this way, and instead of a manual Post-it, they check the check mark next to the record that they would like submitted as an exhibit. Once they're done doing that, only the records with the check marks are pulled into a separate tab. Thank you, Alex. Pulled into a separate tab called DLO exhibits. That will be where I can reorder the exhibits, also type up a new description. Once we're happy with that, with the click of a button, SOL generates the exhibit listing for me on pleading paper. With the click of another button, SOL will combine all of those individual PDFs into one large PDF that I can then print copies of or upload into SharePoint. I had the opportunity to use this feature actually a couple weeks ago on an active case. It was just so much easier. There's a lot less paper manipulation and 0 paper cuts. I look forward to continuing to use SOL and seeing how it can continue to increase our efficiency. Thank you for your time. Now I will kick it over to Iveta.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? My name is that button. I didn't know which one. My name is Iveta Breco, and I am a project manager for a case management project. So you just heard about 2 business processes that we implemented case management for: disability retirement, disability litigation, and we have a 3rd process included in phase 1, and that is first payment, which includes member account certification, benefit amount creation, certification, including all that in the agenda. We are still working on that, but once we are done, we also decided to include into the phase 1 2 tasks for member services. So all member services will be introduced to SOL at that point. And then we will tie together disability, retirement, and first payment cases, and we will be processing handoff between the 2 divisions because there's an extra step needed to certify an account. Then we will include that processing in seamless survivor processing payments for these groups which are not currently included into the first payment. Then very important process is account settlements. And we decided to include it because in next phase, because first of all, it is very important for LACERA. Secondly, it will be using a lot of functionality you already built for the first payment. All the account certification will be there, so it made sense to put it in there. And then quality control and audit will be our next target for phase 2. To remind you, we have 5 phases, and we're just in phase 1, and this is scheduled for phase 2, and we will be building pieces of SOL to complete case management solution for LACERA. So this is all.
Thank you, Veda. And that concludes our presentation. Again, thank you, trustees. We'll now open the floor for any questions you may have.
Sounds like a very good update, a lot of good progress. We appreciate everyone's efforts on this. Do I have any questions from the trustees at large here? Mr. Moore, sure.
That is, you're going to be able to collect a lot of data that will give us information going forward, like how many applications for service-connected disabilities from this job classification at this location and how it was dispositioned?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. This is one of the benefits that SOL brings because currently we really don't have that functionality or prior to SOL. With SOL, we'll be able to gather information about, again, like you say, what items, what positions are applying, what conditions they're applying for. And so we can, if any reports need to be gleaned or generated regarding certain trends that we're seeing, we will certainly be able to do that.
Will you be able to collect demographic information?
Demographic information, I'll leave that up to systems. Yeah,
male, female.
Yes, certain information from the enterprise workspace system is fed into SOL. So we can certainly generate reports from that information that is imported from SOL, from workspace into SOL.
Okay, thanks.
So, there's another, if I may, there's another project that's going on to create a data lake. And so it's a way of centralizing all of the data that we have in Workspace, SOL, and other applications so that we can mine it for various reports. So everything that goes into SOL can theoretically wind up in the data lake and can be mined for reports. So, there's a coordinated process behind what we're trying to do in terms of being able to understand all of our work, how it moves, what it means, so forth and so on. It's a whole new world for us to work and play with.
Thank you, Mr. Popowich. Any other questions? Back, Mr. Harris.
Kind of a follow-on with Trustee Moore about being able to mine data for different reports. Will that include job classification? For instance, if we wanted to look at how many disability retirement applications were filed by sheriff sergeants or battalion chiefs or whatever, we could actually get that information?
Yes, yeah, the classification of the member's job is in Workspace, and that bit of information is brought into Sol.
Okay.
And we're able to track and search for those positions, and we envision being able to, again, generate a report to see like, okay, are we getting a lot of psychological from certain positions, and any other, data that may be requested either by myself to see my teams or even by the division manager.
Thank you.
Trustee Harris, if I might add something to that, I don't know if you noticed today in our snapshot, there was a new graph in there that actually showed the departments that were filing on the agenda, so you could see how many applications on this agenda were filed by which department. And over time, I think we'll be able to add layers upon layers of that where we can show how many of these applications were filed by deputies, sergeants, and et cetera. So that's something that we're definitely looking into. Obviously, now we're pulling data from Sol. We've only been in there since September. So as we continue to add applications to the system, we'll be able to get more data.
I want you to know how exciting this is, because back when I was the health and safety lieutenant, which was in 2000 to 2005, I was asking for that kind of information and I couldn't get it. So I created my own database at the Sheriff's Department, so I knew exactly what was going on. So this is really exciting, because that's information I think we as a retirement board, and I think the county as a whole, they need to have that information so they know what's going on with all their employees. So this is great news.
Okay, so Mr. Kryman?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to mention that, this has been a long time coming, this particular application. I just want to commend my staff for all of their hard work, and I know that I pushed them very, very hard on this, and they actually created a prototype within 1 year, I believe, if I remember correctly. It's just a little over a year, which is unusual, especially for something so ambitious as this. And so if I don't, I'd like Mr. Lugo just to kind of come up and talk a little bit about the partnership that we developed with our consultant as well, because they deserve a lot of credit also, because they were incredibly flexible, understanding. Our business analysts did a terrific job. The subject matter experts did a fantastic job. And so I think that they deserve a little bit of
A concise,
very, very concise, yes.
well-stated summary would be appreciated, Mr. Lugo.
Yes.
We're on the edge here.
I'm here till 6, so.
I'll keep it very, very brief, but it was, the consultant is Centex, they're local. This is their first case management system for a public pension system. And I expect, based on the work of our PMO and also our subject matter experts, that this particular platform will be utilized by other public pension systems.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other feedback on this item? Great. Thank you very much for the presentation and the update. We appreciate it. Moving on to the next item, we have items for staff review. I don't believe we have any, do we, Terry?
We have nothing.
Items for future agenda. I had one suggestion to be forwarded for the next OOC meeting, which is meeting frequency and then maybe the start times of those meetings, Mr. Kryman. I think maybe in conjunction with BOR Chair Kehoe, we can talk about that. The last few months, we've had some really lengthy BOR meetings, and I don't want to shortchange the presentations at OOC because they're very important. So maybe we can think about different timing or duration. Okay. Thank you. A good of the order we will skip unless anybody has anything burning. And we will skip to the next one, which is in executive session, a concise, super summary of potential threats to public services or facilities.
Recording stopped.